China, a country that rose from the depth of poverty and became the world's factory within 50 years, leading many to believe that this country, run by a one-party system, will eventually surpass the US. But how much do we really know about China and about its people? The Chinese Communist Party, or the CCP, heavily controls all form of media within China, erasing negative views and delivering propaganda like Mao's Cultural Revolution on steroids, all the while pretending to the outside world that everything is as close to utopia as you can possibly get. And have they been successful? Well, yes. In 2025, when the US government was close to giving TikTok the boot, tons of TikTok influencers flocked to the Chinese social media app Red Note, believing it to be more open and free than their US counterparts. They could not have been more wrong. After the initial cultural exchanges, the Chinese government realized that the Chinese citizens were learning about wealth and human rights discrepancies between Westerners and themselves. And this does not fit the CCP's message, that their one-party system is right, and that the Western democratic system is inferior. So they started banning US influencers en masse, shattering the illusion that free speech is somehow more free in a dictatorship society with no free speech protections. Imagine that. But even after all that and more, the Western world is still woefully ignorant of what it's like to be a regular Chinese person living under a communist regime. So I'm taking upon myself to take you all behind the Great Firewall of China to see the truth about Chinese society, one clip at a time. And who am I? I'm Spider-Man. No. My name is X. My actual Chinese name starts with the letter X, but it's too hard to pronounce, so I just go by the first letter. I'm a Chinese American born and raised in China, but I grew up in the US of A, and I have worked in Chinese news media for the last 7 years as a journalist, news reporter, and I've hosted many news-related shows. And for the last 3 years, I worked for the Mandarin branch of Voice of America, where I delivered news censored by the CCP to the Chinese people. Now I will bring the daily lives of the Chinese people to you. Question: what happens when you see an elderly person fall on the street? Well, as an individual with morals whose mama brought them up right, you should go and help that person, whether it's helping them stand up or at least calling for help. But when this elderly Chinese lady fell down in the middle of a crosswalk in Shanxi, let's see how the Chinese public reacts. But X, isn't China really big on filial piety and respect for your elders? Yes, and these people who just walk by without helping aren't morally bankrupt. They just don't want to get sued. You see, in China, it's common knowledge, it's even a meme, that being a good person and helping an elderly who fell might and most likely will earn you a lawsuit that more than cleans out your entire bank account. This next clip is from March 17th, Jiangsu. An elderly person fell down in a narrow passageway on the side of a street. Now let's see how other pedestrians reacted to this scene. March 20th, Shanghai. An elderly lady fell while riding a bike. The person who recorded the video can be heard saying, "If you don't have any money, you really can't go help her." This is how society is right now.
你看这么多人，一个老太婆都倒在这里，没人敢扶，这没钱真的不敢扶，谁都不敢动，你看，对吧？这现在社会就是这样，扶不起啊。
Now you might be thinking to yourself, I'm a good person. If I was there, I wouldn't care that they might sue me. It'll be a cold day in hell before I leave someone helpless on the streets. And the person I helped will be so grateful, and we're gonna have a touching moment where they compliment me on how good a person I am and go on their way. Well, in February 20th of this year, 2 middle schoolers from Fujian, with their hearts full of hope and dreams of a just world, tried to do just that. In this video, an elderly lady fell off her bike, And like all good kids, these two middle schoolers promptly got off their bike and helped her.
我们是斥责，他是避让白色轿车向右倾斜，重心不稳，摔倒的一直出现。他已经摔倒了，现在就是说被我女儿给吓到。我女儿说她出来的时候，老太太已经下去了，两个孩子还在商量说要不要。另外孩子说那就扶呗，又没事。那我女儿哪里会知道，扶了就扶了22万的赔偿。我们现在对这种真的产生心理很严重的阴影，真的是不能去扶。小孩子学雷锋做事情反而还是错，你这样子以后给孩子的心理跟身心造成什么样的影响？晚上看了，我没有想到竟然发生在我自己身上，有多倒霉就有多倒霉。你所谓的吉儿，我要怎么
You guessed it, the two middle schoolers were sued. They had to pay for the medical fees, medical accommodations, food, etc. for the elderly lady. In the lawsuit, she claimed that their sudden appearance caused her to swerve and fall. Okay, sure. The Chinese lawyer who posted this video argued that the elderly lady was traveling at minimal speed and made no attempt with her left foot to break her fall, making the resulting fall her own fault, and not the middle schooler's fault. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide whether or not that's true. This next video is a lot less ambiguous. The elderly lady in the video just fell. She was standing still, no one was around her, and a college student helped her get up and took her to the hospital and even paid 1,000 yuan for her medical bills.
女大学生扶摔倒老人反被讹诈，最终结果简直大快人心。女大学生见老人摔倒，好心将老人扶起并及时送医，还帮老人垫付了1000块钱，结果老人却反咬一口。
You can probably guess what happens next. Yep, the college student got sued. The old lady accused the student of knocking her to the ground. Just how far does this all go? What if a person fell in a hospital? At least the doctors and nurses will help them up, right? Wrong. In this clip from November 2024, an old man fell inside a hospital in Sichuan while climbing up the stairs. While passers-by step carefully around the old man, a doctor can be seen walking away, making a non-committal gesture. Now, I'm no medical expert, but I'm pretty sure in the medical field, this is a no bueno.
看病自己上来给甩到了，70多岁，现在得接诊的人来看，好老婆，医生都不敢。
Okay, now you know not to help a fallen elderly in China. But the good Samaritan in you is asking, I can at least call for help, right? Yep, but it's gonna cost you time and money. Chinese netizens have shared their own experience calling for police or an ambulance for a fallen elderly. One person said, I once called for an ambulance to help someone, and the ambulance charged me a fee. Afterwards, the patient's family refused to reimburse the fee, saying that I didn't ask you to call the ambulance, you decided to do that yourself. Another person commented, if I call the cops, I'll have to go to the police station for statements. If I call the hospital, I'll have to pay money from my own wallet. At this point, you're probably asking, how did China get to this point? Let's go all the way back to 2006, when helping people who fell was a common reflex for Chinese people everywhere. That all changed on November 20th, 2006, when an elderly woman fell near a bus stop in Nanjing. A young man named Peng Yu helped her and took her to the hospital. The woman later accused him of knocking her down and sued for compensation of over 130,000 yuan, which is approximately 19,000 USD. After inflation equals about $30,000 today. With no footage to prove what actually happened, a local court ruled that Peng Yu should pay about 40% of the damages, which is around 45,000 RMB, or approximately $6,300, or $10,000 today. But it was the reason the judge gave for this ruling that put China on a path where people are afraid to help the fallen elderly. In the ruling, the judges said, based on common sense, it will be unlikely for someone to help unless they were involved. In the judge's mind, it wasn't possible for someone to help due to the kindness of their heart. So Peng Yu must have knocked down the old lady in order for him to think about helping her up. This case was later settled privately on appeal, but for the Chinese public, this signaled a new age, where being a good person who helps others is not only discouraged, but punished by law. This lawsuit began a new wave of scams in China, where elderly people fall on the ground and sue whoever helps them up. And many of these scams are successful, to the point where in modern-day China, the response to the question, should you help an elderly who's fallen, is, do you have enough money? And do you want to get sued?
Shh, you want to get sued?
Now, maybe some of you are asking, why don't they fix this injustice? To which I ask, why would they? In the democratic societies, when such things occur and incur the wrath of the public, either change happens or people start losing elections and judges get impeached. Because those in power due to the voting system are beholden to the voters. But what about in China, where the common people have no votes, where the powerful retain and gain power based only on how they please their superiors? Well, you just saw one of the results, a country of people who are afraid to help the fallen elderly.
看看现在骑小车滚到了，没人敢扶啊，这个样子。
不能啊！我出去干啥？我就不按这事儿打电话，有事儿不？你给我说那事儿。
不用接，不用打，你打有你的事儿，不用打。
不用打啥就不用打，人家小孩不想打，人出事了不想打。
你要警察过来给你打，你不会找人家给你打。
Thank you for watching today's video. Now, our channel is mostly geared towards Chinese people. We report Chinese news that are censored by the CCP to the Chinese people who are mostly living in China and all around the world. But occasionally we'll put out an episode to show American viewers what it's like to be a Chinese person living under a one-party regime. So if you like that video and you want to learn more, please comment, like, and subscribe. And we'll have more coming to you eventually. Have a good day.